To start your magic ring, you're going to take your yarn and lay it over your hand, over your pinky, over your index. You're going to leave a little bit more of a yarn tail. You're going to wrap this around your index finger. You're going to create a loop. This little extra yarn tail hanging off, you're going to hold on, put your hook through that loop, and make one chain, 2 chains. And now we're going to make 6 single crochets around the loop and this yarn tail. So we're going to stick our hook through this part right here so that you're catching both the loop and that yarn tail. We're going to take the working yarn, pull it up, and there's our first single crochet. I like to mark my first crochet stitch in a magic ring so that you know exactly where you're going into when you reach the end of your round. We're going to stick it back through, same place, and make another single crochet. That's 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Now to close your magic ring, you're going to take this yarn tail and pull. We're also going to take the working yarn and pull. And that is your magic ring. So next we're going to make a round of increases. We've got 6 stitches. We're going to make 12 in our next round. So that means we're going to put 2 single crochets in each one of these stitches. So take out our stitch marker because we know that this is our first stitch. We're going to go into here under both loops, and that is our first single crochet of the next round. And now in the same stitch, see right where that hole is, we're going to put another single crochet. So now we have 2 in the same stitch. Let's try that again. We're going into the next stitch. That's our first single crochet, our second single crochet, and now that's our second increased stitch. Let's continue all the way around. Now on these early rounds, it's really important that you count your stitches so that you make sure that you're following the pattern. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Perfect. For our next round, we are going to alternate single crochet and increase stitches. Now to keep track of where your increases go, I like to use stitch markers. This first stitch is going to be our single crochet, and this next one is going to be our increase. So let's go ahead and mark every other stitch so that we know exactly where our increase stitches will go. And let's get going on our next round. Now we've reached a green marker. That means that's an increase stitch. So this one we're going to do 2. Now our next round is going to be an increase and then 2 single crochet stitches. The reason being is that if you put all of your increases in the same place in every round, you're going to start making little points, and it's going to make little lines through your pattern. So we're going to start this round with an increase. Then we're going to have 2 single crochets, and then we're going to have another increase. And that means you should have 2 single crochets left at the end. So keep following the pattern until you get to round 12. I'll meet you back at round 12 and we'll go over how to do a decrease stitch. Okay, so now we've reached round 11. We know that because we can count them. So these little ridges are your rounds. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and your magic ring is 11. Decrease means that we are, instead of the increase, which is putting 2 single crochets in 1 stitch, now we're going to take 2 single crochets and reduce them to 1. So our next round of our pattern says that we need 3 single crochets and 1 decrease. So let's count it. 1, 2, 3, and now I'm going to take these next 2 and I'm going to mark them by taking these front loops, 2 front loops of these 2 stitches, and marking them together. We're going to do that again. And that's important because we're going to use our crochet hook to do the same thing. We're going to use these front 2 stitches. So single, 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 and then decrease. Marking your stitches is also a great way to count your stitches at the same time. So you'll know by the time you get to the end of your round if you've got the right amount of stitches. If we were making a round piece like we are here, sometimes your magic ring can get a little pointy. This is where that extra yarn tail comes in handy. You can pull it down to sort of flatten out that point. And after we stuff the piece, if we keep track of this tail, we can use it again to sort of pull that piece in so that it keeps this part round instead of a big pointy top. We're going to do our first 3 single crochet stitches. Always mark your first stitch. Okay, so we're going to do a decrease stitch in these next 2 stitches. So these 2 are going to become 1. These front loops are going to be the ones that we work into. I'm going to put my hook into this first loop. I'm going to put my hook into this second loop. And now I'm going to grab my yarn and make a single crochet like usual. So let's make 3 more stitches. These next 2 stitches are going to be decreased. I'm going to take my hook, I'm going to stick it into the front loop of the stitch. I'm going to put it through the front loop of the next stitch. I'm going to grab my working yarn. I'm going to pull it through both of these loops. And then I'm going to finish off the single crochet as usual. Okay, so we've now decreased by 6. So we've gone from 30 stitches to 24. I'm going to meet you when we reach round 15, because that's when we are going to add our eyes and we are going to stuff the piece. I'll see you there. So to add the eyes, our pattern says that we want the eyes to be between rounds 7 and 8. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we're going into this groove between 7 and 8. So I'm going to take this eye, put it in here. Okay, so now we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. Put our next eye in here. So 4 stitches apart. So now we're going to take our backing, get these going here. And we're going to push the backings onto the eyes. Now, if you're making this for a house that has pets or small children, you might want to embroider these eyes, which means taking some yarn and sewing on some eyes instead of using plastic ones, because teeth can get behind here and pull these out, and these can be a choking hazard. So you want to be careful. This is our yarn tail that's from our magic ring at the beginning. I'm going to hold it out here because we don't want that top piece to point up again like that. I'm going to take my fiber fill and I'm going to take small pieces and just stuff the piece while keeping this yarn tail in view so I can use it to shape the top of the ball. Now, these pieces can take a lot of stuffing. The temptation is to understuff it so that it stays sort of squishy. But as you use it, and as you know, if you have to wash it, the stuffing can collapse and not be quite as resilient as it was when you first put it in. Also, because you're going to be adding a couple of more rounds at the end here, that's going to, you know, give you a little bit more space for that stuffing that you've just sort of overstuffed into here. That stuffing is going to want to come out a little bit, and you're going to want it to fill those last 2 rounds. So that's what that extra is for. So we're going to stuff that in there so we can make those last rounds. And now we've got that little pointy bit right up there. Let's take our yarn tail and pull it down. So now that point has gone away. We can tuck our little yarn tail inside here. We are going to do our last 2 rounds. This is going to be an entire round of decreases, so I'm not going to have to mark this one. Okay, and we've almost reached the end. So I'm going to give myself probably about 4 inches of yarn tail because we've also got this loop here. And to finish off, we pull that yarn tail out, and now we've got this yarn tail. We can go ahead and take that out. And now I'm going to take my yarn needle and I'm going to thread it. And now I'm going to take each one of these last stitches from the round, and I'm going to stitch them all together. And I think that's our last one. And now I can pull it closed. So now I'm going to take this, I'm going to put it back through the center. Now, if you still have a point up here, you can use your yarn tail to maybe sew it down, but I think we got rid of it pretty good. So we're going to hide our yarn tail. To hide a yarn tail inside of an amigurumi or a small crochet piece, after you've finished off, you can put your yarn back through the center of the hole you just came out of and bring it out pretty much any point in your piece. Keep track of exactly what hole it came out of because you're going back in that same hole, and you're going to bring it out someplace else where you've got a good gap between your stitches. Don't pull all the way, because what we're trying to do is we're trying to embed the yarn tail throughout the stuffing on the inside. So we can go up. Let's go up here and bring it back down. Going back and forth through the same direction also reinforces the strength. Okay, so now we've sort of run out of yarn tail, so we can just go ahead and so next we're going to embroider the mouth. So I've got some black yarn here. Get about 8 inches. There's 4 strands of yarn that make up this big piece, and you can pull them apart. Now we have our straight pins. I am going to start right underneath the corner of this right eye. Let's put a pin there, and let's put another pin in the same round at the left eye. And now let's do the curve of the mouth. And let's thread our yarn strand. We're going to come in down here, and we're going to come out where this first pin is. We're going to leave enough yarn tail here to tie the end. So now we're going to go in to where this next needle is and out where this needle is. And by needle, I mean pin. So we're going to go back in at this pin, and we're going to come out by this pin. And now we're going to go back into this pin right here. We're going to come back out where we started. And we're going to take these pins out. So to smooth this out and to sort of reinforce this smile, we're going to stitch around each of the stitches we just made. And now I'm going to bring the yarn tail back out the way we came in. And now we have a nice, smooth smile. I'm going to tie these yarn tails into a double knot pretty close to the base. My plastic yarn needle, and I'm going to hide these yarn tails inside the stuffing.
Emojigurumi complete.